Development Established Bill, HB 59. The second one is Nigerian Oil and Gas Industry Content Bill, HB 1039. This public hearing is an offshoot of the referrals made to the Committee for Further Legislative Actions by the House in a section held on Thursday, the 2nd November 2023, and Tuesday, the 8th of February 2024, respectively. The principal purpose of this public hearing is not just to hear, but to truly consider and value the views of stakeholders and the general public before reporting to the House. Let me at this point take the liberty of the moment to briefly outline the jurisdiction of the committee as enshrined in the House of Representatives Standing Orders 18 Rule 94 as follows. Matters related to the local skill development, ensuring the transfer of technology in the oil and gas industry, ensuring the patronage of local manpower by the industry cited in Nigeria, designing policies that will ensure the patronage of local manufacturing industries by Nigeria, designing policies that would ensure the patronage of local manufacturing industry by Nigerians, receiving an annual performance report of the Nigerian local content, oversight of the Nigerian Content Development and Monitoring Board, annual budget estimates. As you know and appreciate, lawmaking is one of the primary constitutional mandates of the National Assembly. Hence, the event we witness here today is one such routine legislative processes and practices. Bills are proposed to amend, to repeal, or to establish an entirely new law. In the circumstances of our present experiences in the implementation of Nigerian content policies, it is obvious that there is a compelling need to repeal and to enact the Nigerian Oil and Gas Industry Content Development Act 2010, and also to establish structures, plans, programs for Nigerian content development and monitoring in the non-oil and gas sector in Nigerian economy to replicate and to even surpass the successes achieved in the Nigerian content development in the oil and gas sector, in the non-oil and gas sector of the economy. These bills are undoubtedly extremely critical to the development and strengthening of Nigerian content in both the oil and gas and non-oil and gas sectors, especially in the growth of Nigerian industries, creation of massive employment opportunities for Nigerians, export of surplus made in Nigerian products, and to earn foreign income and further strengthen the national currency. I fervently hope that with these qualities of the personalities, especially knowledgeable and well-experienced professionals gathered here today in this room, the best ideas will be brought out to help the various sectors this bill, as the bill relates to. This committee believes that the provisions in this bill are still mere suggestions until they are enacted. The provisions are therefore not stone-cast, unamendable. I assure you that the committee is always ready to accept and adopt useful ideas to ensure equitable utilization of our resources to the benefit of all stakeholders in these various industries. On this note, I wish to assure you further that as legislators and members of this committee, we are very conscious of our constitutional responsibility and shall give the necessary legislative support and cooperation required for the passage of these bills in an act of the National Assembly in no distant time, God's willing. I particularly want to thank the Speaker, the House principal officers that are here, and all committee members for the immense support of this committee. I also sincerely thank all stakeholders that have come here today. I wish each and every one of us a successful public hearing. God bless us all. Thank you.
To do. So I'm standing on his behalf. Thank you. Remark by Right Honorable Abbas Tajuddin, PhD, Speaker, House of Representatives, at the public hearing held by the House Committee on Nigerian Content Development and Monitoring on Thursday, 18th April 2024, on the bills for an act, I will abridge it, bills for an act HB 59 and HB 103. I am honored to welcome all to this crucial hearing organized by the House Committee on Content Development and Monitoring. Today we gather to deliberate on two significant bills that have the potentials to shape the future of our nation's economic landscape. The bills under consideration is the bill for an act to enact the Nigerian content, in parentheses, non-oil and gas sector development establishment bill. This bill aims to establish the Nigerian Content Council and provide a structured program for utilizing Nigeria expertise and promoting made in Nigeria goods and services, fostering economic diversification and addressing related matters. I think this bill is speaking directly to me because what I'm using today is the innocent made car. Thank you. In a lighter mood. In the non-oil and gas sector, this bill involves development of domestic and capacities and capabilities in the value chain of some critical sectors like ICT, mining, power, marine, maritime, manufacturing, health, agriculture through strategic investments, education, activities, research, development programs. This bill will be a milestone in our efforts to promote local content development beyond the oil and gas sector. The second bill on the agenda is the bill for an act to repeal the Nigerian Oil and Gas Industry Content Act number 2, 2010, and the act to enact the Nigerian Oil and Gas Industry Content Act. This bill seeks to establish the Nigerian Content Development Monitoring Board, create a legal framework, structures, and programs aimed at strengthening the local content in Nigerian oil and gas industry, address other relevant issues, defects in extant laws. The passage of this bill will be instrumental in enhancing indigenous participation in oil and gas sector, as well as opportunities for Nigerians, enhance the international competitiveness of Nigerian businesses, increase in-country spending, increase in-skill transfer, among others. As we deliberate on this bill today, it is essential to consider the implications of our national development agenda, the promotion of Nigerian expertise, goods, services is vital for achieving self-reliance, economic growth, and sustainable development. By enacting robust legislation that supports local content, environment for indigenous businesses to thrive and contribute significantly to our economy. I urge all stakeholders present here today to actively engage constructive discussion, share valuable insights, provide informed recommendations that will guide us in making sound legislative decisions. Your contributions are invaluable as we work towards advancing the interests of our nation and ensuring a prospective future for all Nigerians. On this note, Mr. Chairman, I wish to declare this hearing open and wish you very fruitful discussion. Thank you, and may God bless you, Federal Republic of Nigeria. Thank you.
Of Executive Order number 5, which is responsible for local content issues in the ministry. I would like to say that the purpose of our coming here is to appeal to the committee to stop further legislative work on this bill because there is already an existing agency that is carrying out this responsibility for many years from 2021 and part of Science and Technology Ministry. And I have here records to show that some of the agencies mentioned here, including the Standard Organization of Nigeria and others, are all parts of this agency, and they have been working with us. So I have the records here, which I can show. And I will also show records of evidence of establishing the organization and inaugurating some of the working committees upon which
okay, what you can do is to make all your submission to the Secretariat.
Yes, I will make all of them to the Secretariat.
Because your 3 minutes is almost up.
Okay, then, assuming but not considering that there is need to go ahead with this, there are constitutional issues, legal issues, technical issues that we have found out that will be an impediment in going ahead with this bill. And we have done a 42-page presentation outlining the constitutional problems, the legal problems, the technical issues that are involved. So, in summary, we are appealing to the committee to have a second look, perhaps engage Federal Ministry of Innovation, Science and Technology, and other stakeholders, and then we'll see how we can solve this problem. Thank you very much. Yes, Secretary.
The chairman, with your permission, will take the next presentation.
Of local content in the oil and gas industry, and having implemented the Logic Act for close to 14 years, there is no doubt that we have enormous experience in the practicality of local content principles and practice in the oil and gas industry, as well as some of the challenges associated with it. It is very remarkable that this bill seeks to repeal, not to amend the existing law. This leaves the impression that the Logic Act had fallen short of the expectation of critical stakeholders. And perhaps that is why the new bill has so many innovative provisions. We expected that, based on the achievements of the board as well as the law, within the course of time from 2010 and now, that the achievements would have necessitated building on those areas of strength and intervening in other areas through amendment to cure some of the defects that constituted impediment. But the National Assembly has powers to make laws, and we have looked at the bill submitted and highlighted a few areas of concern. Because of time, I will just mention a few of them. One, we notice the omission of Section 2 in the Logic Act. Section 2 of the Logic Act contains the principle behind the enactment of the Logic Act. The principle of an act is like the mission statement of an organization, which clearly depicts its mission and vision. We believe that it is important to reinstate it, or rather incorporate it in the current bill, because it will reaffirm Nigeria's commitment to the philosophy of Nigerian content in the oil and gas industry and other linkage sectors. It will also tie in to the core objective of the Oil and Gas Industry Act, declared in Section 2, subsection paragraph E of the Petroleum Industry Act, which makes implementation of Nigerian content one of the core objectives of Nigerian oil and gas industry. Of this bill that I wish to draw attention to is Clause 9, Sub 1 and 2, which talks about preference for Nigerian content. Our suggestion is that this is critical, but it is better to adopt the use of guidelines as one of the strategies to achieve the practicality of this intention. Because Introducing expressions like indigenous Nigerian company. First, you have the challenge of reconciling what actually it means in relation to Nigerian company as defined in the Companies and Allied Matters Act, and even running the risk of representing Nigeria as running foul of some of our international trade obligations and bilateral trade commitments, so that it's not construed as unduly discriminatory. So it is important to define clearly what an indigenous company implies in a way that it does not necessarily offend our trade obligations internationally. The next is the margin of preference, which in the bill is suggested to be set by regulation. This is an opportunity for me to comment briefly on the nature of regulations and guidelines. First, our submission here is that the lofty intention intended to be achieved by the margin of preference in this bill will be far easily realized if it is left to the board in consultation with stakeholders to work out the modalities, the practicality, instead of using regulation. Guidelines give us one advantage. They are easy to make, they are easy to modify, and you can state the periodicity with which it could be reviewed. Regulations are like sub-law, they are subsidiary legal instruments that follow strict formalities of lawmaking. The processes of amendment are also as cumbersome as that of principle and amending principle enactment. So the summary of our submission here, in addition to others, is that one of the smart tools to use is to adopt the use of guidelines, and that responsibility should be vested in the board with the approval of the council, because the council is appointed on part-time basis. One other important section that we need to draw attention to is Clause 13. Clause 13 alludes to that made in Nigerian goods must not be rejected merely on the grounds that they do not meet quality, quantity, and timeline for delivery required. This is concerning to us because in oil and gas industry as regulators, issues about quality are like safety considerations. They are almost non-negotiable because they are important to the safety and survival of the oil and gas industry, which is high risk. We think that this clause needs to be amended so that it does not unnecessarily legitimize poor quality in the course of helping Nigerian companies. We have made suggestions on the best way it could also be redrafted. 34 sub 1. Clause 34 sub 1 seeks to introduce the additional levy to support research and development. Indeed, research and development is critical, and we support every initiative towards ensuring that research and development is done in country. But we are wary of the fact that mandating that a certain percentage be kept of the profit of companies will lead to cost escalation, and Nigeria is pushing to make effort to reduce the cost of doing business. And it is only proper for us to reconsider that section and encourage the art of R&D activities by operators or even other major oil and gas companies through incentives, not through imposition of additional.
Global oil and gas industry. Today we have seen that there is a serious decline in production of crude oil, and this is affecting the economy of the country. OPTS is very much concerned and would like to do everything within its reach to support the government and other stakeholders to see that there is a turn, a positive turn that will bring Nigeria to this place of competitiveness. We all know that about 15 years ago, one company in Nigeria was able to produce over 900,000 barrels of crude oil equivalents per day. But today, we are about 29 OPTS, and we are struggling altogether combined to be able to produce 1.5 million. This is a very terrible and very significant decline. Therefore, the OPTS is poised to assist and to cooperate with this honorable OPTS therefore looks forward to an NC Act that will promote investments, that will promote the ease of doing business, that will make Nigeria more competitive and make Nigeria the bride of investors once again. On receiving the notice from this Honorable House, OPTS went ahead to do a comprehensive review of the clauses of this bill. About 135 clauses were reviewed, and OPTS looked at 44 of these clauses. Out of these 44, we categorize our comments in three. One, the ones for minor amendments, and these ones we did a clause amendment. Just adding one or two things to the clause existing. Second is major amendments. And these ones propose complete rewording of the clauses to assist the House in this work. And thirdly, there are some of the clauses that we found a little bit difficult to comprehend, because we feel that these clauses might be counterproductive to the essence and objectives and the spirit of this bill. So we requested that the House may consider to expunge these clauses from this bill. These are the three categories of our proposals. For the purpose of this public hearing, I will not be able to discuss all the 44 clauses, but I will mention just a few of them. The first one has already been mentioned by the NCDM, and the OPTS has been collaborating with the NCDM, and we can see the landmark achievements by the NCDM since April 2010. One, the procedure for rejection of payment in Nigerian goods needs to be looked at a second time, because this clause actually is a delicate clause if we leave it in this way it is. I will not go far because our colleague at NCDMB have explained this clause. Number two is clause 15. Clause 15 speaks to subcontracting to indigenous companies. Now, we don't have any problem with us subcontracting to indigenous companies for contracts given to foreign companies. But asking operators to be the ones to allocate a percentage of the scope that will be run, that will be executed locally is a dangerous thing for the oil industry, because it gives a window for the contractor to say, you give this scope to that person. You ask him to give this scope. So if there is any failure, any security failure, any safety issue, any quality issues, then we are in trouble. So we submit that this clause should be also looked into. Another clause is clause 18, which speaks to the compliance by subcontractors. This clause seeks to put the responsibility of non-compliance to the operators. And we feel in OPTS that it shouldn't be so. We feel that every alliance partner, every project promoter, every contractor, every subcontractor under this act should carry their own penalties if they don't comply, making OPTS responsible for the sins of subcontractors. We feel it's really not very okay, and we are asking the House to please look at it. Before I summarize, I'll speak also to clause 23. Clause 23 speaks to public review of the Nigerian Content Development Plan. This is a very, very heavy process. Yes, so we have them in our submission. So thank you, Madam.
Revisions and additions to improve its effectiveness and ensure seamless implementation. Our observations on clause 67. The definition of Indigenous Nigerian Company 2023 bill clarifies the definition of Indigenous Nigerian Company as a legal entity wholly owned by Nigerians except for technical partnerships. Our recommendation. This clarification is very positive. Is a very positive change. To avoid ambiguity, we recommend Indigenous Nigerian Company to be defined as a legal entity with 100% of its shares held by Nigerians, except for technical partnerships. On clause 9, section 2, Nigerian Service Company, the term Nigerian Service Company could be confusing. Our recommendation, replace with indigenous Nigerian Service Company and define accordingly as a legal entity providing services in the Nigerian oil and gas sector with 100% of its shares held by Nigerians, except for technical partnerships which promotes indigenous participation. On clause 13, made in Nigerian goods and services. The current rules prescribed for using made in Nigerian goods are potentially cumbersome and exploitable. Our recommendation, simplification and use of incentives are necessary for driving the desired outcomes. Observation, clause 34, research and development fund. The requirement for operators to set aside 0.5% of taxable annual profits for research and development is commendable. Our recommendation, support this clause as it stands. Clause 55, award of contracts. The margin of preference is reduced from 10% to 5%. Our recommendation, propose a 7.5 margin of preference to strike a balance between cost and local content development. Clause 67, contract payment timelines. The provision mandates payment within 60 days of contract completion. Our recommendation, suggest a 45-day payment window in line with international best practices. Clause 68, interest payment date. Interest should be chargeable after a specific period. Our recommendation, align with clause 67, interest should be chargeable after 45 days. Clause 75, role of the oil and gas e-marketplace. Our recommendation, the clause should include a mandate on public announcement of bids to promote transparency. Fund of the board. Okay. Yes, we have. So let me conclude. Okay, in conclusion, Petan appreciates the opportunity to provide input on this critical legislative initiative. We are hopeful that our recommendations will contribute to the refinement of NOGIC Bill 2023 and ultimately lead to a stronger, more sustainable and more inclusive oil and gas industry in Nigeria. We look forward to the bill's passage and stand ready to support the implementation of its provisions for the benefit of our industry and the nation at large. Thank you for considering our views.
So the National Quality Council would like to submit that the committee takes a critical look at the requirements and provisions of the policy in arriving at the provisions in this bill. With your permission, Chairman, I'll make a copy of the policy available to the Secretariat. Thank you very much.
Empowered regulator, example, NIDA NCC for approval before the equipment may be utilized. So this is for the non-oil and gas. For the oil and gas, we have section 18, 19, 20, 21, and 40. These sections created different layers for submission, review, approval of Nigerian local content development plan without considering the peculiarity of different sectors. So we are looking at more collaboration with the regulators, and we hope to build it going forward. Thank you very much. We'll make our submission.
But created to help the board achieve its local human capacity development in the industry. So the bottom line is most of us were business people doing training across the value chain in the industry. And as the board was set up, the board decided to use what we have on ground to get what we need. So Octan has evolved over time, and we have close to 400 membership right now, corporate memberships, and most of the companies in the oil and gas industry, even those who are doing other things, also have their training arms that are part of the Octan chain. So our basic target is domiciliation and domestication of skills in the oil and gas industry, benchmarked against international standards for such things, such as ISO 17024. So we are not saying we want to make all industry trainings and certification skills localized, but we are saying we can make it available and affordable within the country, including artisanal skills. Our people are busy doing things in the bush. We can develop skills that can structure this to become something that is now formalized. And we are partnered with relevant stakeholders. MBTE is part of us, basically. They have established OCTAN as an awarding body for oil and gas industry right now. And we are busy developing national operational standards in line with stakeholders like that, including the Petroleum Technology Development Fund. So what we are asking, we are in support of this bill because it's going to create skills. Skills in the oil and gas industry are global currencies. They are things you can use anywhere. If you develop and train someone in line with oil and gas standards in the industry, he's going to be able to work anywhere in this country as well as outside this country. Wherever there is oil and gas, these are internationally benchmark skills. And we're talking about welding, we're talking about things like diving, talking about non-destructive testing, and a whole lot across the industry value chain. So what we are asking the bill to do is to establish and deepen the relationship that's already existing between NCDMA, BTDL, MBTE, and the IOCs, as well as our sister associations like PETAN, that we will all put hands together and let this bill empower skills development and human capacity development across the industry value chain, with OCTAN as the central focus, because there is no other human capacity development initiative in the industry right now. The OCTAN, that we like to say, is the country's best program for skills development in the oil and gas industry. So thank you for the opportunity, and we look forward to being part of any discussion and any form of negotiations to enhance the skills of Nigerians to work in the oil and gas industry in the country and outside this country. Thank you.
To submit a memorandum on the subject bill on non-oil Nigerian local content. This mirrors the earlier efforts and pragmatic steps initiated to save the textile and garments industry of the Nigerian economy. The association fully supports this bill. This is because the bill will release the full economic potentials of the textile and garments. The bill will stimulate and support sustainable value additions along the entire value chain. This would in turn create jobs and wealth for Nigerians, facilitate technology transfer and diversification through innovations that will lead to an increase in exports and economic growth in the country. The association has reviewed the proposed bill and have offered our observations and recommendations on those clauses that pertain to the textile and garment sector. In summary, Madam Chairman, the Nigerian Textile Manufacturers Association recommends creation of a Directorate of Nigerian content development on textiles and garments. This will align with international best practices to enable the country enjoy the full potential of the textile and garment industry. The policy that would flow from the bill should not contain clauses to introduce levies and taxes that would punish indigenous companies, that would worsen the already deplorable conditions of textile and garment companies are facing in the country. Once again, Mr. Chairman, I don't want to waste time. The association expresses profound gratitude for these positive and significant legislative efforts of your committee. We plead that the recommendations be favorably considered in the interest of our dear country, especially in keeping with the renewed hope agenda of the present government. Thank you very much.
Which I think is very important for all of us to also know. This is why corruption happens in Nigeria. Every day we talk about corruption. And what did you say? That all this should be referred to industrial court. I ask myself, Where is the High Court? And what does simply mean is that if there are financial disputes, the financial dispute, where does it go? Where is the role of EFCC? I'm surprised that EFCC is not even here because they are supposed to be here. But I'm happy that the Bureau of Public Procurement is not here. If there are procurement issues, where does it go? It goes to procurement, not the industrial court. What I did was I went online because of our research nature to ask myself, what is the role and responsibility of industrial courts? I found that it's not even close to what this bill is proposing. So where does it stand there? So I supply strongly that that section should be completely expunged or even amended. Finally, so that I don't think I've taken much of your time, is that another the area that is mentioned is the cost of governance, which I see that is overlapped here. In clause 5, page C1912, I mean 1912, yes, it seeks to establish a council. Of course, I won't mention the council there, but you could not make the reference appropriate, but I did. And the council is supposed to be independent. What it says was that with 8 directorates, I asked myself, 8 directorates to be headed by executive commissioners in 13 states. Where is the cost of governance that we're talking about? And yes, there are still going to be directors and all that. There are still going to be Of course, there are already about 18 ministry departments and agencies that already overlaps here. So I urge the committee to please take a comprehensive review of this bill because it has caused so much damages. Of course, I don't have enough time to explain it because we have raised 36 points, law and court of law. And I'm happy that we are in the National Assembly discussing law today. And again, let me also remind this committee that there's a law you passed some last year, so it may not be this this particular edition, but that the House of Representatives passed, which also overrides this particular law.